to connect to Elon. And oh, that was good. This is good energy. All right. And welcome to Elon in general. I want to point out one thing before we start, and that is that OL's brought you here. K-Fresh and Emma kept you entertained. Physical plant set up, all the chairs here on the floor, and event technology support, which is under my overall department, is basically running this entire event with everything on the screens, everything technology-based you see, like they've put together. So a lot of people have done all of this just for you. So I want to give them a round of applause just real quick. So again, I want to say welcome to Elon, because we have a really cool campus community here, and it's not just the intellectual climate, it's the social climate. It's people interacting and engaging in really cool ways that I haven't seen at any of the other schools that I work at. Now, there are a lot of reasons that you have picked to come to Elon, and I'm not sure that it's not as important to me like what those reasons are. I'm just really happy you're here. Do you know what I mean? Like, there are a lot of people that we said no to when they asked if they could come to Elon, and we told you yes because there's something special about you. So I'm really looking forward to finding out what that is over the next 4 years or so. Okay? I'm pretty active on Twitter. That's a social network of choice for me. If you happen to be on Twitter, you can track me down there. I'll be following the hashtag Elon20, and you can check out my website too. And we have a lot of stuff to cover. We started 15 minutes late just because we needed to get everybody in, so thank you for your patience. I'm probably going to run over just a little bit. But all that to say, we need to get something big out of the way just so that I can go through this and help get a lot of information to you. So just to get this out of the way, oh my God, he looks like Seth Rogen. Now you can stop wondering, okay? So here, it's the longer you look at it, right? So here at Elon, I am an instructional technologist in teaching and learning technologies. That is under instructional and campus technologies. We touch pretty much everything involving technology on campus. So in my role as an instructional technologist, I help faculty, staff, and students use technology in meaningful and effective ways. And yes, I do presentation design training for pretty much everybody. So if you're interested in that, track me down. Now, like a lot of you, I am not from here. I am not from Elon. I am not from North Carolina. I'm from a state called Ohio. Yes, all right, that's good. More cheers every year. I'm very happy about that. And then one Pittsburgh person who boos. But if you've never been to Ohio, it's really cool. You should go sometime. This is what it's like there. Okay. And I grew up in the Snow Belt area in Ohio, and I got my learner's permit in November, and I was driving a stick shift. So I learned to drive on snow really early, and then 4 years ago I moved to North Carolina, and they handle it differently. Okay. They do. What you're going to notice, if you've never been down here for this, is the hint of snow will lead to a complete run on bread and milk. It's just gone. They will buy literally all of it. Okay. Now, I've been doing this presentation off and on for about a decade now, and I love first-year students. I really do. You are my favorite audiences by far. You're always really warm and receptive and kind, and you're really interesting, too. But the thing is, sometimes first-year students do stupid things. And so I've had to start this presentation by just offering some general advice to you that might go a little outside what we're talking about today. And my advice to you is this. This is a really beautiful campus, isn't it? Right? Can we get a clap for landscaping? Now, there's a lot more to it than that, but since it is a beautiful campus, what's going to happen is over the next couple of weeks, you're going to start to feel a sense of ownership here. You're going to walk around campus, and you'll see like garbage on the ground. You'll pick it up and throw it away at the next trash can because you want the campus to look nice. And you're going to start to get this mistaken impression that it's your campus. And it's not your campus, it's their campus. They just let us stay here, okay? You can track the progress online if you're really interested. And this is not a joke. Like, they are self-sufficient, okay? And they are everywhere. So if you're walking across campus and there's suddenly an extra weight on your back, it's that. Right? So, eyes open. I want to start today with my favorite quote about technology, and is this one: computing isn't about computers anymore, it's about living. And what this quote means to me is that technology is no longer a thing. Technology is really a lifestyle. It's an ingrained part of our day-to-day lives. In fact, when you pull it out of our lives, we tend to have a pretty adverse reaction to that at this point. Right? There was a university up in Pennsylvania, they did a social media brownout. So basically they blocked social media sites on campus for a weekend. And literally a day into it, the students were journaling their thoughts, and they said they felt sullen and alone. Because like people were walking miles off campus to a Starbucks to use the Wi-Fi there so that they could check Facebook and Instagram. Now I'm curious about this. Out of curiosity, just by a show of hands, how many of you would feel uncomfortable if you had to go 1 week with no internet? Ooh, that's a lot of hands. How many of you would feel really uncomfortable, like you just absolutely would not want to do it? You wouldn't want to go 1 day without your phone? Still a lot of hands. Okay, and be honest, how many of you have sent a text since I started? Okay, it's been 3 minutes, right? And I get it, right? It is hard to disconnect. It doesn't matter what you're doing, right? It really does not matter what you're doing. It is very hard to disconnect from technology. Now, because this is such an ingrained part of your day-to-day lives, it starts to have an impact on how you view the world, how you interact with others, and how you behave in general, which brings me to my second favorite quote about technology, which is this one. Our identities are increasingly situated, conditional, and optional. And what this means to me is that we now choose what we share about ourselves, when we share that information, and whether or not we share that information at all. We are literally crafting our online identities. We are choosing how we present ourselves to the world. And this has flipped that classic philosophical argument, because Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. You've heard that before, right? And what he's saying is, I exist because I have thought. And really, it's now I share, therefore I am. We're defining ourselves by what we choose to share with other people and how we choose to share that. In fact, if I look at all the technology that you use on a regular basis, it revolves around one key thing, and that is enabling you to share things with other people. And so these are some of those technologies. They're animating in based off of the year that they were created. But there are a couple of different things on here, basically starting in the year 2000 moving forward. So some are almost as old as you are, which is interesting. Out of curiosity, how many of you regularly use at least 3 things on the screen? Ooh, everybody, okay. And about half of those were created 2010 to now. So like just less than 10 years old. It's kind of incredible. And you use these things a lot, right? A lot. And I would say that this has actually had a huge impact on your lives and lifestyles. Hearing chuckles from people who like design. So these technologies, they let you share things with other people. And the other thing that all these technologies have in common is that they rely on user-generated content. User-generated content. So what does that mean? That means that if no one's on Facebook, Facebook sucks. And if no one's on Instagram, you don't know what your friends ate for lunch. And if nothing's on Wikipedia, you don't know what to write in your papers. Okay? That was a good laugh. That was a good laugh. I'm going to give it a, yeah. Please don't do that, by the way. Like, please don't use Wikipedia as a primary source. We're not a fan of that. But again, all these technologies rely on sharing. And the ability that you have now to share nearly anything at any time with anyone, there's a lot of potential behind that, right? That's a really powerful ability to have that we really haven't had before. But there's also some pushback about the consequences of that ability, and people are asking genuine questions about whether or not this is a good thing, whether or not we're taking it too far. And I want to explore that just really quick before we dive a little bit deeper. So I want to start with your phone, because this is a really miraculous device. It absolutely is. Phones used to just call people. Like, I don't know if you remember 10 years ago, the first cell phone that your parents had, like, literally, it had a one-line green display. You had to pull the antenna out of it before you could use it. Do you remember this? Right? It was just a phone. And now they do so much more. Like, you can call people, text people, email people, surf the internet, take pictures, record movies in high definition, edit them on your phone. And there are apps that take advantage of all the built-in sensors that can do all kinds of cool stuff. So they figure out what's around you, how to get you to places with GPS. And there are apps that will let you do just about anything in the world. So there's one that will take your camera, and it'll use your camera to scan printed text and translate it into a different language on your screen, which is amazing. And then on the flip side, there's another app called Run P that tells you when you can go to the bathroom during a movie because the boring part's coming out. That is not a joke. That is free for a limited time in the App Store. Okay? And for those of you who are going to come up to me afterwards and like, how does that work? At the beginning of the movie, you hit play on the app, and that vibrates in your pocket to let you know. And when it comes back, like, it'll actually tell you before you go back to the movie theater what you missed, which is kind of cool. So this is a pocket-sized computer. It's amazing. It can do all kinds of crazy stuff. And I wanted to know, like, are you using this device to its full potential, like I secretly hope? So I decided to conduct a very scientific experiment here, because one of the pillars of an Elon education is undergraduate research, right? So I polled some undergrads, did some research, and I tracked basically how you use your phones all weekend long. This is really scientific, and these were my results. All this technology, and it really just replaced the watch, right? Have you ever done that thing where you pick up your phone, you check the time, you put it back down on the table, and then you realize you immediately forgot what time it is? You have to, all the time. And it's not just the technology in terms of hardware, it's software too. It's how we're now able to connect with different people. So technology doesn't have an impact on communication, it has an impact on things like relationships and romantic relationships, right? I had a really cool experience when I was traveling back from DC a couple of weeks ago where I was sitting behind a young man on a plane and I could see full view of his screen. He's holding it up like this. He has no chill at all. It's not down, it's right here. So it's hard to not see. And he's trying to write a message back to a young lady that he's just met on Instagram. And I just watched him struggle with how hard this is to get out a message to someone. And it was just so endearing. And it made me think it's high risk trying to connect with people, even when digital stuff is involved. Do you know what I mean? It's hard to put yourself out there. And so I'm curious about this, because 1 in 3 couples now meet online. 1 in 3 couples now meet online. So there's Match.com, eHarmony, Craigslist for the creepy people. And one of my favorite sites is Plenty of Fish, because they study their users. They run analytics and data tracking and all this cool stuff, and then they blog about what they found. And what they found is that people on online dating websites, this is going to be shocking news, aren't always honest about what they look like, right? So technology is having an impact. We're just going to swipe left on that. And then there's Facebook, right? The largest social network in history. About 20% of the world's population has a Facebook account alongside you, right? Including your very hyper-political uncle who is just going nuts right now, right? But here's the thing. In the world of sociology, there's this concept called Dunbar's number. And Dunbar's number is actually a range of numbers, but it's commonly agreed that if you had to pick one to represent, it would be 150. And that is the maximum number of people you can have a meaningful relationship with at any given moment. Now, out of curiosity, how many of you have more than 150 Facebook friends? Ooh, all of you. See, I wanted to know who are these people, right? So more undergraduate research. So I dug through all of your Facebook profiles. I looked at the people that you were friends with, broke them down by category. This is really scientific. And these were my results. Right? Why are you friends with all these people? Because I guarantee at least once a week, someone pops up on your newsfeed and you're like, I don't know who you are. And then you literally spend an hour accidentally creeping their photos. You make it back to 2007, accidentally like one, and die. It's just the worst feeling in the world. So these are some of those technologies you use. And again, they're all based around this idea of sharing things with other people. But the thing about sharing is that sharing typically comes with consequences. And we need to talk about some of those today. So sharing does affect how you communicate with other people. I think email is a great example of that in higher education. We need to talk about how to write a proper email. It affects how you connect with other people socially, and not only that, but how you interact with services, right? So we're going to talk about Facebook as that. We are taking a ton of pictures and sharing those with people, so I do want to talk about pictures. And then I'm going to close with some unsolicited advice. Why? Because it's my session. I do what I want, sorry or not sorry. Okay? So let's start with email. And why email? Because here's the thing. Email is a form of communication, no surprise here. But over the past 10 to 15 years, communication has changed substantially. It started off with the reemergence of short-form text-based messaging with apps like ICQ and AOL Instant Messenger that may be just a bit before your time. Those have evolved to things like Snapchat and WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger. Okay? Short-form text-based messaging, which is really the evolution of the telegraph, if you think about it. Okay? So a really old technology brought into the modern age. The thing is, you spend an awful lot of time working on phones, right? You spend an awful lot of time typing on phones. And primarily when you're interacting with people there and text is involved, it's those short-form text-based messages, right? Texting, Facebook, Messenger, Snapchat, things like that. That bleeds into how you write longer forms like email, which is meant to be written like a letter. And I've noticed a divide here because sometimes those texting habits bleed into the email. And so I just want to talk about that. And so to give you an example of how that change has taken place, I want to read you an excerpt from a letter that was written during the Civil War by a guy who didn't have the same type of schooling that you did, but was about the same age. So this guy's name was Sullivan Ballou. This isn't actually him. I just like to think it is, right? Doesn't he look like a Sullivan Ballou? Okay. And I want to read this to you. I'm going to kind of set the tone. If anyone has a harmonica, now is the time. No? Okay, well, there's an app for that. By the way, this is not an Instagram filter. This is what old pictures look like. Okay. Just for clarification. So I'm just going to recite this to you in Civil War voice, which is sometimes a little lower, so I've got the text up on the screen for you too. Okay. My very dear Sarah, the indications are very strong that we shall move in a few days, perhaps tomorrow. Lest I shall not be able to write you again, I feel impelled to write lines that may fall under your eye when I shall be no more. Isn't that beautiful? People who love writing love this last sentence because the meter, the rhythm, it's perfect. This is a beautiful sentence from a guy who didn't have the same type of background in education that you did. Okay? I'm going to read you another excerpt from this because it's such a good letter. But oh, Sarah, if the dead can come back to this earth and flit unseen around those they loved, I shall always be near you. In the garish day and in the darkest night, amidst your happiest scenes and gloomiest hours, always, always. And if there be a soft breeze upon your cheek, it shall be my breath. Or the cool air fans your throbbing temple, it shall be my spirit passing by. I would marry this guy in a heartbeat. That is a beautiful letter. Isn't that amazing? Right? Sometimes I do this for college audiences and a couple is sitting in the audience. This is the point where like the girlfriend smacks the boyfriend and goes, "This is the best I get from you." Right? I like to call that a peak in a valley joke because there's laughs, it kind of dies off, and then you see what time it was sent, right? So I want to contrast that with an email that I got from one of my first-year students at my last school. This isn't actually him, I just like to think it is. And by the way, if you've never seen this, you are not cool unless you are for popped collar school. So some of you need to layer up a bit before you start tomorrow, okay? So let's take a look at that email. This is verbatim. I didn't change anything. Did not change a thing here. So is there any way I can make up for my missed assignments and get them to you because I can't afford to fail? A few problems here. So first, he didn't tell me who he was, right? I literally have no idea who this is. I feel odd because I literally can't even. That's the worst joke I tell in this whole thing, I promise. No spelling, no punctuation. Now, it's very clear that he messed up, and he's asking me to help bail him out. Right? From a faculty perspective, why do I want to go out of my way to help somebody else who screwed up if they can't be bothered to use a shift key and a period? Right? It's a fair point. So what this guy didn't get, his email is different. So what I want to do is I just want to give you my 3-minute, 3-step plan to writing the perfect email to any instructor or staff member or really anyone in general. Okay? So the audience matters here. Keep that in mind. But I'm going to take this primarily from the context of emailing faculty and staff on campus. So here's your first step. And the first step in writing a perfect email to any faculty or staff member is to write one sentence that answers 2 questions. And those questions are, who are you? And more importantly, how do I know you? So again, just considering your audience, this is context, right? Hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm in your Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 to 9:50 general psych class. They don't have to look you up on a roster. They know exactly how they should know you, which helps them figure out how they can help you better, right? So you're actually helping them help you, which is the goal of this email. Number 2, you want to do 2 things in this email as you're writing it. First, keep it simple, because people who write a novel, that does not get read. That gets skimmed, right? And then you either get not what you want or kind of what you want, right? If you're trying to get something in particular, keep it short and to the point, because those emails can be read really quickly, and it also looks deceptively like you could get back to it really quickly, okay? And while you're doing this, be classy about it. Dear Dr. So-and-so, dear Professor so-and-so. When you sign off sincerely with regards, your name, some contact information so they can get back a hold of you, right? Be classy about the whole thing. And when you are about to send this email, make sure that you follow step 3, which is spell check. This is really the most important step in any email. Now, I had a really fascinating conversation several years ago with a first-year student who made the argument to me that since she could send email from her phone, that she should be able to write it a little bit more like a text since it's coming from a mobile device. And she thought this was a really compelling argument, but it doesn't stick much with me, right? Because I don't think that it matters where that email is coming from or what device you're on. I think spelling matters. I think punctuation matters. I think grammar is important. You can't go through your lives regretting knowing, because these things are important, right? There was a student in my last school who, in email correspondence with his lit professor, referred to the main character of the Spanish novel Don Quixote, that character being Don Quixote, Quixote, in case you've never read it, as Donkey Hoti. Donkey Hoti. Donkey Hoti. Can you see what's happening with the grade right now? Right? It's just straight down. Okay. So 3-minute, 3-step plan to writing the perfect email to any instructor or faculty member. First, identify yourself, be efficient with your writing, and please, please, please check your work. Okay. So that's email. Next, I want to talk about Facebook. We're just going to switch gears a little bit, because I find Facebook to be fascinating. Facebook's been around for a long time now. They really have been. And having followed Facebook for a while, I've come to the conclusion that Facebook is evil. And here's why. And I'll tell you why I'm talking about Facebook in just a minute. Now, when you sign up for a Facebook account, there are 2 lies that are told, one by Facebook and one by you. Okay? The first lie is told by Facebook, and it's free and always will be. That's a lie. I'll talk about why in a minute. The second lie is told by you, when you go, yes, I have read the terms, data policy, and cookie use. Okay? That is the biggest lie in history. Yes, I have read and agreed to the terms and conditions. It is more, I agree to the terms I have never read and will never read. Okay? Now, here's the interesting thing about it. That's a contract, basically a contractual agreement. Like, you're signing up for a site, and you're saying, here's how, or you're agreeing to a document that says, here's how you can use the site, what is and isn't appropriate, and more importantly, how they can use the information that you share in return. Now, has anyone actually tried to read the terms and conditions, the data policy, and or the cookie use? 1 person, 2 hands, 3, 4, 5. You're cheating because you saw the presentation before. So about 5 people out of 1,500, right? That's a really low number. Now, I went through all those documents, put them together, did a word count, and it turns out that they're about 6,100 words long. Now, that's about 15 plus pages, single space, Times New Roman. Or for further context, that's about 1,550 words longer than the United States Constitution, which means that it took fewer words to start our entire country than it did your Facebook page. That's messed up. That's really weird. Now, buried in there is a section about what Facebook apps know about you. I think this is a really important example. Has anyone added a Facebook app at some point in your Facebook career? Right? You've added a Facebook app somewhere in there. Maybe you have and you haven't realized it just yet. Sometimes when you sign up for a mobile app and you log in with Facebook, it tethers it to an app that exists on Facebook. So long story short, when you add an app on Facebook, you give a lot of data away. Right? In fact, this is the data that you give away when you add a Facebook app. This is what you're giving to that developer to see about you. Actually, that's not all of it. Okay, there's a bit more there. So that's a lot to give away. Okay? And you may not realize you're giving all that away when you add this app. Now, this is important for a deeper point. And first, it's really hard to figure this out if you don't actually go through the documents. And Facebook doesn't really make it easy for you to manage your privacy settings or what you share with other people or services. Because if you look at all their settings, they have over 50 settings with over 170 options, including this. So even if you don't ever add a Facebook app, all these boxes that say like your bio, your birthday, pretty much anything that you have ever posted, all of these things are shared with any app that your friends add. So even if you've never added a Facebook app in your life, if your friends have, and I guarantee that they have, probably more than one, all of this data from you is shared with them. And I've been telling you about this for a long time. So this is the 2016 screenshot, but every time I go through this presentation and try and update it, here's the one from 2013, here's the one from 2010, and here's the one from 2008. So when you were celebrating your 10th birthday, I was talking about this, right? Oh, wow, I feel old all of a sudden. Ooh, that's context. All right. So this has been going on for a while. Did anyone know about this? Anyone in here? No, they do a really good job of hiding it, and they have for a really long time. And when Facebook is confronted by this, they say, no, we are continually working to try and make it easier for our users to manage who can see their data. And I have heard other companies promise to make their products easy to use, and it's just not true, is it? Right? This never worked. Like, I got it to work once in my life, and no one believed me, right? Like, you always had to get a steak knife, right? I said that at an event once, and there were parents there, and a dad came up to me afterwards, and he's like, no, you don't want to use a steak knife, because you get bits of cardboard in with the macaroni. You want to use a paring knife. And I was like, this man knows things. So we're still Facebook friends, is the point of that story. But when we're talking about Facebook and managing who gets to see your data, they make it hard on purpose. Out of curiosity, how many of you intend to major in business? Okay, I'm going to spoil it for all the business faculty and actually give you your first lesson on business today. In a business transaction, if you're not paying for something, and out of curiosity, how many of you pay to use Facebook? Anyone pay to use Instagram, Snapchat, WhatsApp? No? No one's paying for these services. So if you're not paying for something, guess what? Here's the thing. You're not the customer. You're actually the product being sold. Because your information is incredibly valuable. What they do is they take it, they put it into a database, they form a marketing profile for you, and they sell you ads that you're more likely to click on. Facebook and Google are not tech companies in the traditional sense. Like, people think that Google is a search company. People think that Facebook is a social network. They're not. They're ad companies. And they rely on data, right? It's an exchange. In fact, Facebook goes so far that even if you are logged out of Facebook, but you visit a site that has a Facebook share button or a Facebook like button, which is pretty much every site at this point, Facebook is still tracking you, and not by a couple of data points, by 94 unique data points. This is what they're tracking you by when you go to a site, even if you're not logged into Facebook. This is everything that they track you on if you go to a site that just happens to incorporate some kind of Facebook service. It's going to take 15 seconds to show you the entire thing. Isn't that crazy? So the reason that I pick on Facebook in particular is because they're the largest social network. So their business practices bleed over to companies that they either buy or try to buy. Right? Has anyone ever connected to free Wi-Fi at a business? You've connected to free Wi-Fi before? It's okay. Okay. So I was at Kohl's with my wife this weekend, and they were like, "Oh, free Wi-Fi." And I was like, "That's great. The LTE is kind of terrible in here. Like, I'll connect to the Wi-Fi." And I was like, just for fun, because I'm bored. Like, I'm not looking for anything right now. My wife's a teacher. She needed to go buy some clothes for tomorrow. And so I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and read through this, as you do on a Sunday. And what I found in here was a really interesting spot that said Kohl's reserves the right to monitor your communications and activities via this service, including their content. So I dug a little deeper. Kohl's reserves the right, and most companies do, I'm not just trying to pick on Kohl's, to track your location throughout the store, to intercept any messages that you send and or receive during that time on any service, to track your browsing history and what you do with their Wi-Fi, like everything. And they don't have anything in there about what they do with the data or how long they hang on to it. Isn't that creepy? Like, this stuff, it's not free, right? It's really not free. There's always an exchange. And sometimes it's not worth it. Sometimes you might be comfortable with it. But that's why I wanted to talk about Facebook, because sometimes when we interact with services, we give them a lot more than we think we do. Okay. So let's move on to something a little bit happier, which would be pictures, right? How many of you have posted a picture online? Okay, everybody at this point. I don't even need to ask that question anymore. A couple of years ago, it was like half the room, and now it's like everybody. Okay. How many of you check a social network every day that relies pretty much on pictures? Okay. We take a lot of pictures. We can take a picture of anything, anywhere, at any time, and that's amazing, right? You can get shots like this. This is a real small news story. You probably missed it. This plane crash landed in the Hudson River, and on the first ferry boat rushing up to pull people off the wing, someone pulled out their iPhone, took a picture, sent it to Twitter. Within minutes, it was being broadcast nationwide on MSNBC, CNN, Fox. And I would argue that as soon as it went to Twitter, it had been broadcast internationally, because even though Twitter is blocked in certain countries, it's an international platform. Now, that's kind of cool. But we don't use our camera phones, or the cameras on our phones, to take a lot of cool pictures all the time, right? More so, they're just kind of pictures of us that we want to share with other people. And we think that this is a new emergent trend, and it's not. Like, selfies have been around for a really long time. The one on the left is from 1839, okay? This guy's name is Robert Cornelius. The other picture's from 1900. Everybody is taking selfies, okay? And I mean, like, literally everybody is taking selfies. There's a huge copyright battle going on right now to figure out whether or not the monkey owns the copyright to this photo, because he stole the photographer's camera, so does the copyright belong to the photographer or the monkey? It's a whole to-do, okay? Now, the reasons I want to talk about selfies in particular and some of the photos that you take is because there is a question about whether or not the photos that we take are always the most appropriate content to share with other people. And by the way, if you ever have the inclination to try and take a selfie with a squirrel, don't. Okay? It's not a good experience. It's not a good experience. So I wanted to know more about the photos that you choose to share with people. Because have you ever done that thing where you take like 70 photos and you have to pick like the perfect one to go up? Okay, I'm seeing some agreement here. I wanted to know, what do the photos that you post look like? So again, undergraduate research. When I was in your Facebook profiles earlier, looking through your data and things like that, I took a peek at the photos that you posted, as well as the photos that your friends posted and tagged you in. And I broke them down by category, really scientific. These were my results. And this data is cumulative, so some of you were totally in the red, right, unless you laughed, okay? But we post some things that sometimes are a little inappropriate that could come back to bite us a little bit down the road. But sometimes you don't do that, right? Sometimes you weren't doing anything wrong. Sometimes something stupid ended up in the photo with you. Have you had that happen before? Right? You did nothing wrong. It was just something else was weird in the photo. Like maybe dad was messing with your prom photos. I don't know. You overlook that creeper in the background? Sometimes this is a cool experience, right? Like the couple just wanted a picture of themselves with the backdrop. Squirrel's like, what's going on, right? Then the squirrel stole the camera. Squirrels are evil, okay? But sometimes you have what you think is a really beautiful photo, a photo that you would print, put in the Christmas cards, email out to everybody, make it your profile background on Facebook. You love it, and you happen to overlook that one detail in the background, right? And the reason I bring this up is because based off of my research, 95% of hiring managers, before they extend a job offer to somebody, are going to look you up on social media and social networks. And of that 95%, over 3/4 are going to look for you on Facebook, just over half on Twitter and Instagram, and just under half on the professional networking site, LinkedIn. Now, of that number, at 95%, 70% of those hiring managers have removed someone from consideration for a position. They've withdrawn an offer because of inappropriate photos, right? So that kind of, it sucks that it's your burden to have to deal with this, but you're the first generation to ever have this ability, right? You're the first generation to have to deal with this long-term consequence. If there are embarrassing photos of your parents from when they were your age, they're literally printed out pictures. They're probably in a shoebox at this point, right? Like your stuff is all online. And to put a further point on this, there's a company called Social Intelligence that was given permission by the FTC to archive up to 7 years of your public social network and social media posts. Up to 7 years of your public posts on any network, really, to use when companies perform a background check on you. Okay? And they were given this ability back in 2011. So you were in 8th grade when they got permission to do this. That's crazy. Okay? So they've already been archiving your public stuff. Now, we have an awesome student and professional development center, our student professional development center on campus, and they do all kinds of cool stuff. They do mock interviews. They'll help you out with resumes. They host job fairs on campus. They can help you find jobs on campus and some internships. They can connect you with another organization on campus that happens to create Elon business cards that you can use. They'll even help you do headshots, like professional headshots for you to use on social networks. But what they can't do is help you go 4 years back in time and unpost something from Facebook, right? They can't help you with that part. So if you get to a point over the next couple of weeks, months, years, where you're like, I don't know if I should post this. I've developed a handy decision-making flowchart for you. Like, if you're ever on the fence, should I post this? Seems pretty straightforward, right? To put it in a different context, I would encourage you to not post anything that I would reply to with one of these GIFs. And I work in technology. It's pronounced GIF, not GIF, okay? Just so, for the record. Yeah, we should clap for that. It's absolutely GIF. There's some people who are like, no, GIF, right? This is my favorite out of all of these. Can we just appreciate that? Okay. So that's what I think about just the photo stuff, okay? But we can move on from that. So those are pictures. Now I just want to give you some advice here, okay? Just some general unsolicited advice. And I have 4 pieces, and then we're going to close, all right? My first piece of unsolicited advice, and again, this is unfair to ask you to do this, but you're the first generation that's going to have to, is that you learn to disconnect. Because if you talk to people in older generations, they're very concerned that you spend too much time connecting with technology and not enough time connecting with one another, because this has never been a problem before. Okay? It's never happened before in the history of anything. But we spend a lot of time connected to our devices. We really do. And I would challenge you, think of your phone. Just as a quick aside for our security director, if you do own an iPhone, we would encourage you to update your iPhone as soon as possible. There was a really nice security update that came out this week. Do try and get that in. But think of your phone, okay? iPhone, Android, the 2 of you who own a BlackBerry, the 1 person who owns a Windows phone, okay? You know who you are. What's your time to screen each morning? How long before you're interacting with an electronic device? Let me answer this question real quick for about half of you. Who uses their phone as their alarm? Oh, as soon as you wake up. As soon as you wake up, you're interacting with a screen. How crazy is that? We don't think about it that way, right? But we spend more and more of our lives interacting through these screens, right? It's starting to get a little ridiculous. A picture of a picture of a picture of a picture. It's great. We spend a lot of time interacting with technology, and that affects how we perceive the world, right? I would encourage you to try and find some healthy balance. I'm not telling you to not use technology. I'm an instructional technologist. If you don't use technology, I don't have a job, right? So please keep using it. But try and find that balance with your real world life. Like, have you gone to a concert lately and watched people try and record the whole thing? Has anyone ever sat down and tried to watch a recording that someone took at a concert? And it's just the most garbage thing that you've ever seen in your life, right? You can't hear the sound. It's completely blown out. Like, the color is just terrible, right? It's not a good experience, okay? And this affects how you prepare for academic things, too. Have you noticed that? Technology has affected how you approach school at this point. And I wanted to know more about that. So I decided to conduct one last study, and your parents actually helped me out with this. So for the last 6 months of your senior year, what they did was they followed you around the night before you had a really big test or a really big paper was due, and they wrote down everything that you did that night. Then they sent it to me. I collated all the data. Okay, this is very scientific, and these were their results. You ever do that thing where you open up Facebook and there's no notifications, so you close that tab and then you immediately open a new tab and click on the Facebook link? Right? And there's still nothing there. You're like, why did I just do that? It's like checking the fridge. Like, it's so weird. Okay. I will say, since we had a late start, we're probably going to run a few minutes over. Is it all right if I borrow some more time from you? Is that okay? All right, I appreciate that. My second piece of unsolicited advice would be that you use technology constructively. Now, all of you should have gotten this flyer when you came in today, and I need you to do me a solid. Okay? This outlines all kinds of cool technologies that we offer to you, and all kinds of services that we offer to you, pretty much free of charge. Okay? And this doesn't even cover half of it. Like, there's some really cool stuff that we offer on here. Media services is a great example of this. You can go in and check out things like GoPro cameras. You can borrow laptops on a very short-term basis. You can borrow data projectors, sound systems, all kinds of really cool stuff that help you academically. We have a technology service desk. If anything goes wrong with technology, hopefully they can help you out there. There are a handful of things. If you bring some personal stuff from home, we may not be able to help entirely with that, but we can help with an awful lot of things, okay? There are all kinds of cool services that we offer in here. When I asked for a solid just 30 seconds ago, what I mean is this. Some of you are literally looking at this handout and thinking that our intention was, here, you throw it away, right? And that's not the intention. This is really good information. So if you know in your mind that you are going to just toss this, what I would encourage you to do is, A, leave it on your seat, but B, before you do that, take a picture of it with your phone so you at least have a digital copy somewhere. Okay? Because there's some really good information on here. Now, one of the things that we feature on here is one of the spaces that I help oversee on campus, which is the Elon Maker Hub. That is a makerspace. And we have all kinds of cool equipment in here that you can use for free, things like 3D printers, sewing machines, soldering irons, all kinds of cool stuff. Right? You can come in, you can learn how to use these things. We won't make it for you, but we will help you figure out how to make what you're interested in. And if all that sounds really far over your head, we have Legos. Right? Those are fun. So come see us. You can learn more on the website or on that handout. Right? And they weren't joking earlier when I know it seemed like a joke when they mentioned I was the White House correspondent, but we've done such cool work with making and makerspaces that I actually did get to go to the White House and talk about what Elon's doing, which is really cool. And I'm going to run with that for like 8 years. Okay? I'm going to tell people about that for a while. Thank you. So it was definitely a group effort. In terms of who can use all the services that I'm talking about, everybody. You just need a Phoenix card. And in terms of how much they cost, $0. Okay, these are provided to you. Okay, so make sure that you're using that technology constructively. My third piece of advice: don't creep. Right? Because we know too much. What is the first thing you do when you meet someone that you're kind of interested in? You go online and you look them up on Facebook and Instagram and you try to figure out everything that you possibly can, and you see their Facebook profile and you're like, they like Nickelback? Can't talk to them anymore. Right? And that's a terrible example because that's excellent advice. But I say this for two reasons. One is that no social network at this point it warns you when you're about to do something that's probably going to hurt you, like checking your ex's Facebook profile. This warning message does not exist for that situation, okay? And on the flip side of that, if this is like someone new that you're interested in, I know that you think that you had like a really good conversation when you talked for all of 10 seconds in line at Subway, but that doesn't mean that you then get to go home and spend an hour and a half trying to look them up on every social network using the name you think their friend called them on the way out the door. Getting really mad that Facebook doesn't let you search by license plate number, right? Because when you finally get a hold of that person, it's probably not going to be like this sweeping romantic gesture that you expect. Like, it's going to be awkward. It's going to be real awkward when you finally get a hold of them. Why? Because it's stalkward. You can steal that, it's fine, right? And I've only found one image that ever perfectly encapsulated just how awkward that feeling is, okay? So, as a general rule of thumb, try not to do anything on any social network anywhere that leaves people wondering, didn't I meet you at the airport? Right? That one was subtle. That one was subtle. Before I give you the final one, I want to give you a quick heads up on what's going to happen next. I'll give you this final piece of advice. If you think I did a good job, you can clap at that point and be like, yeah, it was amazing. We can do a standing ovation because we're recording the whole thing. And then I'm going to hand it back to Emma and K-Fresh. And yes, I've finally been able to say K-Fresh without feeling weird about it. So that's good. He's an awesome guy. And they're going to close out the session for you. So I'm not closing out the session, they are closing out the session. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page. My final piece of advice to you is this. It's that face-to-face is still the best. It really is. We have all kinds of ways that we can communicate with people. We can email, we can text, we can use any number of messenger apps, we can use Skype or FaceTime, even Google Hangouts for the 4 of you out there who like those. Okay. But when you ask people, how do you prefer to communicate? The majority will say face-to-face. I prefer face-to-face. There's just more context there. Because technology sucks at emotion, doesn't it? How many of you have been in a fight or an argument because of a misunderstood text, wall post, message, anything? Anything that you wrote digitally? Look at the hands, isn't that crazy? Technology sucks at emotion. There's no love key on the keyboard. It's really hard to convey some things. So if I could end, I just want to steal a page from Mr. Rogers, who's like the coolest thing to come out of Pittsburgh. And I say that as a Browns fan, okay? And I just want to remind you that there are people out there who care a lot about you, who are not here right now. Like, maybe they're not here anymore, maybe they are back home, okay? And these are people who literally loved you into existence. How cool are they, right? People who helped you move in this past weekend, people who were sweating and running to Target to try and buy you extra stuff, right? Which, by the way, my wife accidentally went to Target on Saturday and she learned that was a bad idea, okay? But all these people who care about you, who helped you become the person that you are right now, who are going to support you as you become the person that you will be 4 years from now. So I just want to take 10 seconds of silence to think of these people, okay? 10 seconds of silence and I'll keep track, just starting now. This is always the really interesting part, where it's like I want to come up with like this really great thing to say to you. And I had this moment a couple of days ago where I was like, oh, I got like the best catchphrase ever, where with technology, sometimes it's hard to hit send, right? And sometimes it's hard to hit end. And I would encourage you, with all this technology at your disposal, you could text people, right? And tell them that you care about them, or you could FaceTime them later and tell them that you care about them. And just let them know that they're important because they've spent a lifetime doing that for you, right? So what I will say is that is my time. I'm going to turn it back over to Emma and K-Fresh, and I really appreciate you sticking around.